Things going. Where are you at? Last time we talked, it was really intense. Did you get a chance to rewatch the video?
I watched part of it. I had a really good weekend. I bought cake, and cake is like, I automatically feel like I'm gonna like gain 500 pounds if I eat it. And I bought a cake, and I started to eat it, and it didn't taste good, so I kept eating it. And it was in my house, so I just felt like I had to eat it. So I ate about half the cake, and then I thought, okay, this is where I have to decide if I'm willing to gain weight, because I'm gaining weight eating this. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna accept that I'm gaining weight. And then I was okay, and I didn't eat any more cake. And then 8 hours later, I got hungry and ate the rest of the cake, and it still didn't taste good. And I thought, okay, why am I eating the rest of this cake when clearly I don't need the whole thing? So I ate the whole thing in one day. And then after I ate the rest of the cake, I was starting to feel kind of, I was feeling kind of guilty. And then I couldn't get the taste out of my mouth because it was so sweet. And I ended up eating something else. And then I finally decided, okay, I just got to be, am I willing to die? Am I willing to die? The next day I woke up and my legs were swollen a lot more. And I'm like, okay, well, but when I woke up, I didn't feel like a piece of shit because I'd eaten the whole thing.
Good.
And I thought, this is what she means when she says, you have to be, would you rather be dead? Or would you rather be dead or, going through this all the time? And I was like, I'd rather wake up and not feel like a piece of shit because I ate an entire cake than, be fat or have all these health problems but not feel like a piece of shit.
Okay,
So,
I need you to say that. For some reason, I just couldn't hear. Can you please say that one more time? You just said, just the last part.
I thought, well, I can't remember what I just said. I didn't feel like, I felt like I would rather be dead. Like I'd rather die than.
Got it. Then to have to try to fix.
This way.
Got it. And then to try to fix what you're doing. Feeling. Pardon me.
Bless you.
Okay, so you'd rather be dead than have to what?
Then worry about, continue to feel bad because I ate too much.
Right. And then it decompresses all the pressure. Have you had a chance to go back in your mind and really think why you were eating something that didn't even taste good? Do you think it had a lot to do with the fact that you weren't quite in that space of willingness until afterwards?
Well, I felt like I had to test it. Like when I was in the middle of eating the cake, I'm like, well, this is where you test. This is where you have to test it, Heather. Like, are you really willing to gain weight? Are you really willing to gain weight
for that cake, for this cake?
It doesn't have anything to do with the cake. It has
to do with your.
It has to do with
okay, so
the fact that I was eating it.
Just the fact that it was bad for you. So it didn't matter what it tasted like. It was the badness of it that you had to be willing to be okay with.
Yeah, because I've never been able to overcome cake. Like cake is just,
That's amazing.
It's just.
So how much? So did you eat? So was it an entire cake, like a big sheet cake? Was it like what was it?
It was an 8-inch cake from Nothing But, which is a bakery near my house.
Got it.
So it was a bundt cake, but it was not a big one. But it was 8-inch. It had a really thick icing on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day I forgot what I ate the next day, but I didn't eat any more cake, and I've had no desire to eat cake since then.
Mm-hmm. Don't you agree? Because you
I
can.
forgot what
Do you think it's because you've kind of given yourself the freedom to just enjoy cake now? Like you don't. It's not special anymore. It's not like an occasion thing anymore. It's like you can have cake all the time now.
Yeah, I'm eating more because I think before I was kind of starving myself because that's all I am used to is either starving or binging. So I know there was a little bit of guilt involved in because I'm eating more than I was when we first started, but I'm not feeling weak and dizzy.
So you're not starving yourself anymore.
Yeah, and so I think that I feel like I don't even, like today when I ate lunch and I didn't, I feel like I'm letting go of the attachment to my feeling bad about eating.
And why do you think?
Because I'm not, every time I eat, I'm a little less, and I have a little bit less anxiety about eating. Because when I started, it's like every time I got hungry, I kept thinking about, well, am I really hungry? Am I hungry enough? And then now it's like, today it was like, I started to get a little hungry, and I thought, well, I'm just going to eat. And then when I finished, I didn't sit there and wait and think about, am I full? Am I full? I just stopped when I felt full, and I felt like maybe I was a little bit too full, but I stopped, and then all that. Then I stopped thinking. I stopped thinking about it.
So do you feel like you're maybe giving yourself some wiggle room to just figure this out and to learn how to do it? Are you giving yourself grace to be like, I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat, I'm gonna let myself eat and relax? So do you see how that relaxation is giving you grace to figure this out, to be able to go, God, I think I ate too much. I didn't like the feeling of that. Right? There's no shame and guilt attached to it.
Yeah.
And so you're giving yourself the grace to figure this out, to figure out how to eat, listening to your body.
Yeah.
Okay, that's so awesome. And I think what you were saying earlier is you've connected the dots between the grace you need with the body, the willingness to gain weight is what's giving you the grace to figure this out, to be able to figure out how to eat cake again in a totally different way. It's not binging.
I also noticed I don't really like sweet things. I really like I don't like cake.
Yeah.
So I didn't like that cake.
Yeah. Well, so do you think that it was played up in your mind to be bigger than it really was because of the guilt around it and the anxiety around it? Before we've started this process, that cake had been built up into something so amazing, far bigger than it really was, because of all the guilt and the forbidden fruit effect about it. So now that it's not forbidden fruit, are you feeling like it's kind of losing that appeal? It's not what it used to be.
Partly, I think also partly is that it doesn't make me feel good physically anymore because of my, I mean, part of it's physical because I think because I'm getting diabetes, I've got like pre-diabetes.
Yeah, well, you can feel that. So, but you've been probably there for a long time. It probably has made you feel like shit for years. You're just finally, it's not forbidden fruit anymore. Yeah, it's like it doesn't taste as good. It didn't have the same impulse. I didn't have the same drive. I didn't feel bad. There wasn't extreme anxiety. You actually had a moment to pause and say, you know what? I have to be willing to, in order to relax and enjoy this, I have to be okay with my weight. You connecting the dots with those now, with this process.
Yeah. I think so. I'm getting better though. I'm actually getting better, so first time ever.
Say that one more time.
I'm really excited. I feel like I'm getting better, so I'm really excited.
Isn't it great? And isn't it great because it's natural? It's a natural process that's all you. You're not following some memorized script anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yep. And so giving yourself this grace time, like we had talked in our last session around, you got to be okay gaining, because if you're going to learn how to do this, you're going to not really feel, you're not really connecting with the body. You're just getting started. So, you've got to be able to give yourself time to feel hunger without feeling like you're starving just because you're bored, right? There's that. But you also got to be able to give yourself a space of peace and calm when you are hungry to eat food without shame, without guilt, without fear, without anxiety, so that you can figure it out. And the amount of different types of food that are available to you are in total and complete abundance, right? You can have tacos, you can have mashed potatoes and gravy, you can have a burrito, you can go have sushi, you can have anything at this point. And you've got to learn how to eat the foods you truly enjoy within the frame of hunger that your body's managing. And you've got to be able to do it without psychological pressure behind it. So the beauty of all of this is when you are eating and you are in that relaxed state, don't you agree? You're feeling like you're sensing your body in relation to food a lot better.
Yeah, I'm able to remember what it feels like to eat it.
Yeah, it doesn't have so much chaos and trauma. Before,
right.
A couple weeks ago, what would it have felt like to have that cake in front of you?
Well, I'd probably still be eating. I probably wouldn't have stopped with the cake. I probably would have just kept on.
So you would have eaten the whole cake in one sitting?
Yeah, and then I probably would have ordered pizza later.
Mm-hmm. Just because you ruined the day, right? It was that weird sense of failure in that cake that defined the entire day. And so an entire day, even if the cake wasn't very good, it wasn't pleasurable to you, right? It almost made you feel sick. Isn't that amazing that now, because we've removed the pressure around your weight, you've removed it, you've accepted it. That's the hard part. Don't you agree that that's really hard to do, especially under your physical circumstance? But you've done it.
Yeah, it's hard to accept that. It's hard to accept eating when I'm fat.
Yes, but
that makes sense.
Well, yeah, that's the cause of your fatness.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the cause, what you just described. It's hard to accept eating. So when you're fat, so that right there is the trigger to overeat, because there is this looming starvation and deprivation all around you. And it's not
that's
just
amazing.
Right. So that's why I'm like, well, of course, that's why you're as big as you are. That's the cause. What you just said is the cause.
That's amazing. I wish, that is so simple, and nobody can figure that out. A friend of mine called me the other day. Well, she's not really a friend of mine. She's more like an acquaintance, and she was talking about getting together, and I was telling her I wanted to take water aerobics, to help me my spine, because it takes the pressure off the spine.
Mm-hmm.
So she started going into dieting, and when I was like, well, I can't diet. So then she wanted me to explain that.
You're just like, because it's like PTSD. I have diet PTSD. That's a simple way to do it. If I think I got a diet, I start binging immediately and in huge quantities.
I'll try that next time, because I couldn't turn into this long conversation.
I know. Just say I have chronic years of dieting post-traumatic stress, PTSD, because I have been so restricted from a very young age in childhood throughout my entire life. I believed I should take days of starving, no food in days, And it was, I was abused through starvation, and I eventually abused myself through starvation. And now it creates such intense fear and anxiety that as soon as I feel bad about food or bad about my weight or bad about eating, I start binging. And it takes zero time from feeling bad to putting something in my mouth. So you can't afford to diet or even care about your weight, right? So it really comes down to you can't afford to care about your weight anymore. You have to accept this. You have to accept this body. You have to accept the damages so that you can stop caring about your weight. Because if you care about your weight, what happens to your relationship with food?
It stresses me out and makes me want to eat.
That's because it means that you have to deprive. And the deprivation is what creates the insane PTSD for you, because it has been extreme. Wouldn't you agree that your deprivation has been to a severe degree?
Yeah, in my head.
The mental cage. Yep, in your head. And then physically it comes to manifest in excessive eating, right? So people who are not fully aware, right? They're only seeing a very small view of everything, would think you're addicted to food. Do you see now clearly why that is just wrong?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, because that means so that would mean that you would eat whether or not, it doesn't matter, like your body image has nothing to do with your relationship with food. That you would binge all the time, even if you were blind, all the time, right?
Yeah.
It would also mean that anything that stimulates pleasure, you can't have ever again. Because if it stimulates the hedonic area of the brain, it's addictive. So you're not allowed to go to funny movies. You're not, I mean, they don't say that, but people who think that don't realize how ridiculous the thought process is that if it's pleasurable, you're in trouble. No, that's not true. Don't you agree it's not the pleasure of the food? It's always been the fear of deprivation. And
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and the shame about your weight. Those two combined, it's not one or the other, it's both. It's the shame about your weight and then the pressure to restrict food. Those two together, when combined, create a very sensitive environment in terms of needing.
Are you recording this?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, good.
I was gonna just send it to you when we're done, just like the rest of them. But you can.
Okay, I gotta listen to this one again so I can explain it to other people.
Well, the key word I want you to use is PTSD. I have been severely restricted in a abusive way because of my weight since childhood. And it has created, and every time I go to lose weight, it creates this PTSD. And I feel, and the shame about my body directly connects that PTSD. And so anytime I feel ashamed about my weight, pressure to lose weight, or feel the need because of that to deprive food, I have an incredible anxious and fearful response that I don't know how to contain. So what you've had to do is totally and completely just accept your weight, to reconcile the physical health issues that it has caused, because you can't afford to continue to feel bad about it anymore. Because if you feel bad about it, feel bad about your weight and what has happened, if you feel bad about it, what's going to happen?
I'm going to start binging again.
Yeah, because what happens if you feel bad about it? What happens to the pressure around restricting food?
It becomes unbearable.
And because it is a severe, you're now to a weight that is severe enough to where it feels like years of starving. I mean, it's a very, it should almost feel psychologically like you are suffocating. Like, I can't breathe. Like, you cannot breathe if you have to be deprived. How would you describe it?
All I know is it just feels like I have to eat, and I can't think about anything else.
I want you to describe the feeling that comes before that. I have to eat comes second. What's the feeling before that? If you're not allowed to.
Oh, just rage, like just
Rage?
yeah, just like just anger, lots of anger, lots of
Resentment?
more just anger. I don't.
Mm-hmm. So anger is also a response. So there's something that's going to happen before anger. So I want to see if you can recall any of these feelings. Like if you had to write a book about this, and you were to want to connect to other men and women that are just like you, that don't know how to talk about it. They don't know how to describe it other than, I just want food all the time, right? For you, and everybody's different, right? But for you, you have rage if you are not allowed to eat. Even if it's a diet that's fictitiously around you, if a diet says you can't eat that, if you were to want that food for whatever reason, whether it's I'm bored, I'm feeling insecure, I'm feeling alone, there's that environmental trigger. Then there is the wanting of food. Then there's I can't eat it.
It's just tension, and it's tension that doesn't go away.
Okay,
it's obsession. I can't stop thinking about it.
Okay, that's secondary.
Until I eat.
Got it. Okay, yes. Okay, that's your escape route. You could say that's how I get rid of these feelings. Okay, so if you're not allowed to eat, you feel angry. So anger is your way of saying, I'm going to get that. You're fighting for your life at that point, right? You're fighting for the food. Okay, so what happens if there is no fight? If you're not allowed to fight for that food, or the fight doesn't do anything, or like what would happen what's the feeling before you get angry?
Panic.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there a physical manifestation? That's why I said, do you feel like you're being choked or suffocated? That's panic, right? The panic would come from some form of, I feel like I am in a dark cage and there's no oxygen. I feel like there's an elephant on my chest and I cannot breathe. And the only way to get rid of that feeling is to get angry and to fight for that food. Because if I'm angry, that's like saying I deserve it. That's your coping mechanism, right? There's something before that.
It's really this feeling of helplessness.
Like, are you drowning?
Like, here it is. Here's this feeling again that I can't do anything about. I'm just
okay, describe it.
Helpless when
I'm trying to get you to describe it. So you feel helpless. So to me, that's like saying I'm drowning. Let me tell you what I felt like. Okay, so when I went into feeling this emotion and I was staying in it and describing it to myself, it felt like I was being drugged to a cliff and being heaved off. And I was scratching at the ground and I was doing everything I could to keep myself from being heaved off of a cliff and falling to my death. So to me, it was panic. I had the same feeling of panic, and it felt like murder. Through intense panic and fighting, right? Some people I've talked to, binge eaters specifically, that I don't want to say this is what you're feeling, but there's a description of that feeling. If you had to write a book and describe a scene that other people could go, yeah, that would suck. What would your scene be like? Are you drowning? Are you being squished to death? Are you being sinking? How would you describe that feeling of panic?
It's kind of like a parent yelling at you and telling you, that you're going to be punished and that, you need to come to them so they can beat you. And you can't get away from it.
Got it. So like being tortured, like being beat up. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Like being stoned. Would you say it's like being stoned to death? Like being crowded on?
More like this. It's just this overwhelming feeling of doom that is going to end up winning, and you have no control over it, and you keep fighting no matter how much you fight it. You're eventually you might as well just eat. Because it's that feeling of that you're just completely helpless and you can't.
Yeah. So for me, it made sense after I kind of felt that description. I was like, this feels like I'm being murdered. I'm going to get murdered in a terrible, terrible way. And I'm helpless. And there's nothing I can do about it. That's why I did what I did. That's why it was so crazy. Because that's what it felt like. So anybody who felt like that would probably do the same thing if the same thing got rid of those feelings. Right? And so whatever it is that you feel, it would make sense if I felt that way, and if food got rid of that feeling, I would do the same thing. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
So that feeling is pretty massive. It's enough that even though your body has become very difficult to manage in terms of how big you've gotten, you still go to the food. That's how intense this feeling is. It's not about the food, is it? It's about the feeling you're trying to get rid of.
Right.
Can you see this is why, people across the board have these bizarre addictive behaviors and abuse substance, right? Imagine someone who has the same feeling. The only way it goes away for them is to drink alcohol until they're drunk, until they're wasted. That makes it go away. And they wake up every morning and they're afraid that feeling's going to come back, so they start to drink just to be ahead of it.
Right.
Can you see the similarity? Is it the alcohol that they're addicted to, or is it what they're running away from? I mean, is it really an addiction? And that's the thing you have to think about. It's like, I knew for me it wasn't that. To me, it was obvious that I needed my mechanisms. I needed what I was doing. What was not obvious was how horrible the emotion was that I was trying to hide, because I was hiding it very successfully. Right? You have been hiding these feelings very successfully, haven't you?
I don't know if I've been hiding them, but I've been hiding from the world so that they don't have to see them.
Well, you've been hiding these emotions you don't want. You've been running away from them for how many pounds? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Every time you go to food and you're like, this is...
Yeah, I didn't even get hungry anymore. I just ate.
Like someone who's just drinking to make sure that those feelings never show up. So we could say, if you were to tell the story, looking at your recovery process, what you weren't aware of before was that what would trigger those feelings is when you felt bad about your weight and when you felt deprived of food. So sometimes, even if you didn't feel bad about your weight, a moment in your life that felt vulnerable, if you wanted to go to food to just escape whatever that feeling was, it would felt depriving, right? And that's where you would get angry and get the food. Feel angry, rage. That's how I used to feel when I wasn't allowed to purge or exercise, right? Same exact rage. I want my safety. Get out of the way, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm trying to get you to think about is describe the feeling that has been so horrible for you. You've said it's like being beat up and not having any power. You said it's a feeling of panic towards being just out of control or feeling hopeless or helpless.
Well, it felt like someone else. Like,
yes, like murder.
It felt like it just made me feel crazy because here I was, like I had to eat something, and the thing that I wanted most was to not eat, and that's what made me so angry. Was that I couldn't stop it, and I didn't know how to.
That's after the fact. Yeah, that's after the fact. Okay, but when that feeling comes,
I don't know about the rest of it.
Well, I want to go back to what you had said. What you said that was really important is you connected. It feels like it's something outside of me that's doing it to me.
Yeah.
And that's why I said it feels like murder. Feels like someone is going to do something to you. And you've got to escape. So it's like a nightmare where you're being chased to your death. There's, the pitchforks and all that, that's what I'm trying to get you to describe. The good news is we're working well together. I mean, we're getting this picture laid out. It needs to be for you an easy description, and we're getting there. But it feels like murder. Feels like something outside of you is going to hurt you.
Well, sometimes it feels like for instance, sometimes it just feels, it doesn't feel the same all the time, I don't think, because sometimes it feels like, oh, I need to try that because I'm never going to have it again. And I get excited.
Yeah, well, that is the desire to eat. Well, and would you feel that way if you were on a diet? And does it change? Being excited to taste something, is that more excitable when you know that you're going to binge all day?
Yeah.
Okay, that's important for you to see that if you were not binging, now how does that food feel?
It feels like pressure.
Okay, so if you've already decided you're going to be binging, how does that food feel?
Exciting.
Do you feel the difference? It's the same food, right? It's not the food. But it's your frame of mind in relation to your body. So if you're currently trying to restrict, how does that food feel? You can't have it.
It feels like it feels like, I don't know how to describe that.
Okay, well, we're trying to get you to describe it. So just imagine you're explaining this to a 10-year-old kid who's doing the same thing. You are trying to lose weight because you're overweight.
I would say it feels like, when your mommy won't let you play with your toys and you want to play with them. How does it make you feel? That's how it feels. Except
I can't. Do you feel victimized?
I guess. I really don't know. I'm just trying to answer you because you want me to give you an answer.
Okay.
And I really don't know.
So let me go back to where we were leading with this. So you feel, so there's that food, like you said. Sometimes it's food that just I really am excited to eat. And we described 2 scenarios. Well, what if you're currently dieting, trying to lose weight? Now how does that food feel? What do you feel about that food when it exists? But you're on a diet.
Like I could have it if I weren't on a diet and if I didn't.
Okay, so the diet
Yes, it is
becomes your
color
persecutor.
different.
In that
There's
moment,
something
you feel
different.
persecuted and restricted by the diet. So it should feel like you said originally, there's pressure. Like it's kind of scary. That food becomes a threat. Am I right?
Yeah.
So then you start to negotiate. Well, fuck it. I can just try it again tomorrow. And then what happens to how you feel about that food?
It has more power.
You get really excited. Now you're like, I get to eat it, and I get to eat whatever I want all day long. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm gonna go on a diet.
So if you're on a diet,
anything to avoid feeling that pressure.
Right?
Pretty much. My mind just does anything it can to avoid the pressure.
I have a feeling that for you, the pressure it really is depriving. I'm being deprived. I'm being punished. Does it feel punishing?
Yeah. Because I know when I start eating, like, I always end up eating a lot more because I feel like I have to punish myself.
Well, once you feel that you have failed, I screwed up, then what?
I'll just keep eating.
I might as well.
At some point, it doesn't become conscious anymore. It's just, I just start hitting whatever. Like, that's when I start, like, spending money that I don't have on delivery because I don't want to actually. I guess the rage comes in when I'm, like, trying to get it, and, like, I'll go in the grocery. If I have to go in the grocery store, and then I'll bring it up to the counter, and people start commenting on how good the stuff looks because I buy the stuff in the bakery, and I just want to throw something at them. I don't want them to comment on what I'm eating. I just want them to ring the shit up and let me get out of there.
That's because you feel bad about what you're doing, right?
Yeah, and they just won't shut up about it. And I'm like, I don't want to talk about.
Well, you're hiding. It's kind of like I'm hiding. I don't want you to tell me what I'm doing. I'm hiding from it. I don't want it. I just want this to go away.
Yeah, it's like everything I do is I want to go away, but I just feel like I'm being forced to do everything. Like when the pressure hits, like I'm being forced to do something I don't want to do. Like I'm being controlled by something that's outside of me. Mm-hmm. And it pisses me off.
Does it feel like slavery? Like an indentured servant?
It does, but it also feels like, you know, when you're a slave, somebody's making you do something, and yeah, I'm doing it with my own self. But yet, it's something that is controlling me, and I don't know how it's controlling me.
Well, because it's your body that you're upset about. So this is really important for you to recognize that you're basically feeling punished by your body because of its weight. So there's two sides to this. This is why I was like, this is not just one thing. There are two things here that when combined creates this syndrome. There's probably three. I'm just going to talk about these two. There is, I'm a victim of my body. I am a slave to its weight. I am, and so there's that. But then there's, because of that, a slave to starving. I'm a slave to starving myself because I'm a slave of my body. Right? It's being done to you. Have you ever felt like the body is ruining your life? That it is being done to you, even though you're directly involved. It's like saying, I have to starve because this body sucks. So I have to starve. I'm a slave to this starvation. It pisses me off.
I just feel like I have these impulses that I can't control.
Of course you do. So if you go into before that, it's really important you know it. It doesn't just happen. There's stuff that goes on in your mind before you do it that makes total and perfect sense.
Yeah. Well, I know. I mean, it's like when I was eating cake, I was like, well, Heather, you have to be willing to gain weight. And once I decided I was willing to gain weight, then the feeling left me. And I didn't have any power anymore and then later it came back, but eventually it went away because I just kept saying, I have to be willing to gain weight. I have to be willing to diet. I mean, at least I won't hate myself.
To be given freedom to eat the food?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had to be willing to just eat. I had to be willing to give permission to myself to eat whatever I wanted.
But you also had to be willing to be okay with your weight. Do you see that too?
Yeah.
You're basically saying, yes. So when I felt victimized by my weight, angry about my weight, overwhelmed about the task about fixing the weight, how does that feel?
It makes me want to eat.
Correct. Because you're pissed off about it. There is an anger in there. Is that right? Makes you want to eat. If you can't eat, what's the emotion that comes up?
It makes me want to eat because I think if this is never going to go away, I'm always going to want to eat, so I might as well just eat. I can't do anything about it.
Okay, so if you're not allowed to eat, what emotion comes up?
Shame.
So if you're not allowed to eat, when you want to eat, what emotion comes up?
Fear.
About what?
About how I'm going to get through the day if I can't eat. Because I have to experience hunger and it just goes on and on and on.
Okay, so what if you're not hungry but it's something you want to eat?
Ashamed that I want to eat it.
Okay, and then what if, so you're ashamed because you want to eat it, or you get angry because you want to eat it?
Ashamed because I want to eat it, and angry because people won't go away so I can eat it in private.
Okay, so let's just say you're at your friend's house. I want to go back to that scenario where you were like, I get excited to eat. And you're on a diet.
When
you're not supposed to eat that food.
So much.
Okay, so go into the emotion of when you want to eat something, but you realize, I can't eat that because I need to lose weight. How does that feel?
Shameful.
Why would that feel shameful?
Because I'm not supposed to, because I'm overweight and I'm wanting to eat something.
So is that the first emotion you feel, or is that secondary? Does that come after you eat it? Or before you eat?
Well, the first thing I see is, I just think it looks good. And then I feel ashamed because I want to eat it.
And then what happens?
And then I've had this feeling of just helplessness because I know that I had this feeling of I'm not going to be able to stop myself. Like, how long is it going to be before I eat? Because I can't stop. I know I can't stop myself. I can never win. So it's just a matter of time.
So then do you just say, screw it, I'm going to have some anyways?
Yeah, because there's no point in fighting it because it always wins. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't win today, it'll win tomorrow because it never goes away.
Because it never goes
completely.
away.
It comes and goes.
Yeah,
so
and it's. But have you noticed that?
I get tired of fighting it. I guess that's what it is. It's this feeling of always having to fight it. Every time I feel this overwhelming desire to eat, I just feel helpless because I'm like, it's back again. I can't fight it. There's no point in fighting it, so let me figure out how I'm going to eat it.
So when you start to do that, what happens? Do you get excited once you're like, fuck it? Do you get excited?
No, I don't get excited. I never get excited.
You don't get excited about binging?
No.
So you just do it just to prove.
It's more like a relief. It's more like relief. It's never really excited.
Because you're no longer trying to feel restricted? Because you no longer feel restricted, or what?
Because I can't fight it. So it's like, I just feel relief when I can eat.
And this happens when you're not hungry.
Yeah.
And it's usually when?
It's definitely on Friday after I finish work. And then during the week.
So because you have nothing to do? You have nothing exciting to look forward to?
Right. And then during the week, and then I have to plan it, because if I eat too much, I won't be able to function on Monday. And then during the week, it's usually, if I can get through breakfast without eating a bagel or with cream cheese from Dunkin' Donuts, or if I can get through lunch without, then it just becomes a battle during the week, so that I can not overeat too much so I can get my work done. And it's just more of like planning. It's just planning everything, and then by Friday it's like, okay, it's Friday. I'm done with work, so I can eat now. And then I'll eat, and then I'll just, if I eat, then I'll start feeling really, but depending on how bad I feel about it, I'll just continue to eat. And then sometimes I can stop by Sunday, and then other times I can't.
So tell me
this.
I
don't know if it's really, it's just kind of become the priority.
Yes. But all along, it's not just thinking about food, it's feeling bad about yourself, feeling bad about your weight, right? Because that's really the cause. So if we were to take that, what you just described, right? And what I want you to do, and I want you to imagine that you get in a horrible car accident, and you're going to be wheelchair bound the rest of your life, and you're alive, no brain damage, totally, you can still talk, you can still hear, you can still see, you can still everything, but you're going to be in a wheelchair the rest of your life, and there really is no hope to lose any weight. So imagine that there is no hope to lose weight ever, right? How would that change this situation? How would it change everything?
I probably still want to eat if I didn't know what the cause of it was.
Okay, so if you don't if you're never going to lose weight. Remember how weight loss is a huge part of this?
Yeah, but now that I know what the cause of it is, that's different from being in a wheelchair and not knowing what the cause of it is and feeling like I caused the accident.
Okay, that is like, you're just now making shit up. I want you to go into, like, with this awareness, you're never going to lose weight.
Well, it's just making things up. That's what we're doing.
Well, I know. I want you to go into this space even further, like really trying to get a better sense of it. What you told me was what would happen if you still felt horrible about your weight and horrible about yourself, correct?
I was telling you about my week and how it goes.
Oh, remember when I said to you, we were just talking about a wheelchair and I created a scenario. I wanted you to go into that and tell me what it would feel like. That's what I was talking about. That's what I'm currently talking about right now. And so if that happened, your answer was, well, I'd feel terrible. I'd just be binging. Well, that's what would happen if you weren't aware of what we're talking about, right? If you're not conscious about the cause, you would still feel bad about yourself. You'd still feel bad about your weight. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah.
Okay. So now I want you to go into what you're aware of. And I want you to imagine, again, you're never going to lose weight. You're never going to, and you are now in a wheelchair. Okay, so tell me in that situation, you remember you were just describing this incessant drive to consume. What would happen to that incessant drive to consume if the pressure to lose weight was eliminated permanently? Would it change?
You mean knowing what caused the weight loss? I mean the weight gain in the first place? Or not knowing?
You know, why don't we make this, let me make this maybe more clear. Just imagine from the description that you were telling me that all you started, it was just like giving up, right? And then you felt bad about giving up. That's what you were describing before, correct? Okay. So in that situation, wouldn't you agree that it's because there's no hope to be thinner? There's no hope to lose weight? It's already ruined? Is that where the hopelessness comes from?
Yeah.
I'm already going to be alone.
Yeah, because I can't do anything about it.
Okay. Why is it different right now?
Because I gave myself the permission to be whatever I want and not feel and be okay with gaining weight and not judging myself on how I look in order to be an equal with everyone else.
So the question is, but aren't you essentially just doing the same thing that you were when you were binging all the time?
No.
What's the difference? Because aren't we just giving up essentially? And I know you've asked me this in the past.
No, because I don't have that feeling. I don't have that feeling of I have to eat that goes on when I do that. When I agree to, I don't have that feeling of shame over eating.
That's the key. Don't you agree? And it's because you don't feel ashamed about yourself either.
Right, I don't.
So the most significant aspect of the way you were eating before, which was constantly just eating out of like relief. I don't have pressure. I'm not going to fix this. I don't care. That's different because you had feelings of shame about what you were doing. You felt like a loser. You felt like a quitter. You felt like a terrible human being. You felt horrible about yourself.
Yeah, now it's okay for me to eat even though I'm overweight. Like it's okay for me to eat and feed my body and not be hungry.
So the difference is I
don't have to be in a certain weight to do that.
Right. So the difference is you are basically saying, I'm giving up. I'm done. Same thing. Here's where I'm at. But I don't feel bad about it. Like I have compassion.
I don't feel like I'm giving up. I feel like I've changed my perception about how I see myself.
I love that. To the old perspective, it was quitting, giving up. When I say giving up this, I'm talking about giving up the fight. Done fighting.
Well, it's not even that I gave up the fight. It's that it just was removed when I decided that I'm not a bad person because I eat. Which is pretty significant. I mean, I don't even like when I see, like when I was out the other day and there were two women crossing the street and they were both overweight, I wasn't thinking, I wonder why they're laughing because they're overweight, so they should be depressed. I was like, look at those two happy people who don't give a shit about what they weigh. I wonder what they do in their lives.
You know what the difference is you're having a lot more self-compassion you're having compassion for yourself.
I like myself more. Like I think I have more self-respect.
Yeah,
and I'm able to see that. And also that the whole thing that you were talking about with victimization, I see that in my own behavior, and I also see it in other people. You know, when they're talking, I see how you create your own anxiety by thinking by the way that you're thinking of yourself as a victim.
Mm-hmm. Poor me.
I see that.
Yeah.
I see that. I recognize that in other people, and I recognize it in myself.
Yeah. Do you remember when I first said that to you? You were like, I don't like that word. And I was like, well, get to know it.
Well, I mean, it's a kind of a, when I think of victim, I think of, like, I'm this big drama queen that's, so like, that's what you're saying. Which kind of is true, but I never realized I wasn't doing that intentionally. It's almost like for example, there was this guy that I dated briefly who turned out to be married, and he contacted me yesterday, and he immediately started with all of this victim. Every statement he made was the victim.
Poor me.
Yeah, and now he was the one that was married and told me he was single, but yet he's turned all of this around on me, like I'm the one that did something to him. And he started out with, I'm divorced and I'm lonely, and he's not divorced, he's just full of shit. But and then he was saying all of this stuff, just this victim statement after statement after statement. And when I first met him, I just felt so. When I met him the first time, and he was like that, I thought, what a person who has such deep feelings. And now I'm looking at this shit that he was texting me, and I'm like, you're such a piece of crap.
Like boo-hoo, go get your blanket.
Yeah. I was like, what? Why are you? He's just playing the victim so.
That you'll be well. He wants you to be his rescuer, and then the rescue.
The same way, like I would tell him all this stuff that I told him all this stuff that had happened to me, and blah blah blah. And so, and now I look at him and I'm like, totally different. Totally different.
So to finish.
Yeah.
If it means you are going to be this size forever, is it worth this freedom?
Definitely.
Are you feeling that more so now that you're experiencing it?
Yes.
Yeah. It certainly is like way easier, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. I still have all these health problems because of, all of this, but still, I would still have them otherwise. And
yeah, you wouldn't. It would be getting worse.
It's easier to cope with it.
Right. And at this point, you just have to separate the physical body from, you just have to accept whatever it is and separate yourself from it and focus on how you would choose to eat if you were given a brand new body. Like if you were given a brand new body, how would you be eating? Knowing what you know now about starving yourself and dieting.
I would eat whatever I wanted, but I would eat till I'm full, and I wouldn't focus on food. I probably would still eat healthy stuff,
Oh, more variety? Maybe eat more variety?
Yeah, I would probably eat more. I mean, I actually like fruits and vegetables and all the stuff, they tell you to eat. I think it's more flavorful, but this last weekend when I eat like I had a salad and I had I like it better than the cake and the real sweet stuff, but I probably wouldn't think about food.
Don't you agree that if you were given another body, and this body, let's just say, is overweight, would you want your relationship with food to be tangled up with your relationship with your weight? Would you want your body image to be kind of engrossed with your relationship with food?
No, I would see I would just be like, I don't know. I would.
You would keep those things separate.
I wouldn't make them a reflection of one of the other.
Yeah, but that's what you've been doing, right? Your relationship with food has been absolutely dysfunctional with the relationship you have with your weight. What we've done, in essence, is completely separated those two. The goal is that the body that you're in is a separate, completely separate relationship from your personal relationship with food. They're not connected. That's the goal, correct?
Correct.
And that's what we're trying to do. It's like go blind to the body. Of course you have the physical things. It's similar to like someone who is wheelchair bound, right? Does being in a wheelchair, should that have anything to do with your relationship with food?
I mean, it's kind of related because you have to eat.
Are you about to tell me something diety right now? What does being in a wheelchair have to do with food? I want you to think.
It doesn't have anything. The fact of being in a wheelchair has nothing to do with food.
Correct. You see how those are totally different. That's like, why are they even combined? Why would anybody combine and change someone's relationship with food, which is psychological, really, and palatable, because they're in a wheelchair? What does being in a wheelchair change about the food you like to taste?
Right.
Nothing. You like the taste of that food, whether you're in a wheelchair or whether you're totally able-bodied, correct?
Correct.
So what you got to do is the same thing. The body I'm in it is its own entity. It's none of my business. My business is when I feel that the body is hungry, I eat food. And I get to choose what sounds good to me, which is what you would do if you were in a thinner body, a body that's in a wheelchair, a body that is, has burns on it, whatever the physicality of the body. When you're hungry, you should eat, and you should eat what sounds good to you. No shame, no guilt, enjoy it. When your hunger is gone and you feel sated or satisfied, you don't want to be in pain, you don't want to feel hurt or overwhelmed with the food. Fullness is maybe too much, right? Because you don't want to feel physically uncomfortable, correct?
Correct.
So you eat what sounds good to you until you feel satisfied, and then it's over and you move on, right? You don't think about it.
Right.
That's how you should be eating. That's how I'm eating. That's how I've taught my kids to eat. That's what I taught my mom who had brain cancer. That's what I tell clients who are 400 pounds. That's what I tell clients who are anorexic and 100 pounds. That's what I would tell someone who is a paraplegic. That's what I would tell someone who's 5 years old and a kid. So the physicality of your body, and I think maybe that's what you're starting to feel, is that I'm separating these two. Of course, this is the body that I'm in. I've accepted it. This is it, right? I can't afford to bring that in to my relationship with my food ever again. So now you're focusing on your relationship with your food. You are to black out your body from being involved when you eat in terms of the body image, correct?
Correct.
Is that clear?
Yes.
Isn't that awesome?
Yes, it is.
I know. Do you have any questions? Do you feel like this is sinking in better for you?
Yeah, I feel so much different. So yeah, I don't have any. The only question I had was how to explain that to my friend, and we covered that. So.
Well, and I'll send this to you, and you can watch it again.